Talking to Gabriela Dittrichova today. She is a little bit of everything. She is a co-founder of a magazine called Vagina Nomics. She's writing a book about love, the re-evolution or revolution of love, actually. The R is in brackets, so evolution of love. And she's an operation manager at Femme Palette, which is an organization that supports women in business, career development, and such things in the Czech Republic. She's born in Brno in the Czech Republic, which is the second largest city here, and moved at 17 to the UK on her own, where she went through a lot of hard times, finding her way, becoming independent, and got into some adventures, went on to creating that magazine, had some issues with the language, interesting ones, and did sexual self-discovery. That was interesting. She writes about all this on her blog, which I will share in the link below the episode on whatever medium you're listening to. And it was a really, really interesting talk. She is young, but has done a lot of stuff so far, and definitely more to come. She moved back from the UK to the Czech Republic, and they see her as an extreme feminist, they say, but listening to her, extreme has taken on a different dimension than what I thought it would be. Definitely had fun talking to her, and the sponsors, guys, that's the Oat Bar on Cyfertova 21 in Žižkov in Prague. That's close to Winston Churchill Square. Amazing place. Cozy to sit inside, good for takeaway, and has home deliveries as well on Wolt and Bolt. Great oatmeals, organic skyr, Icelandic recipe made specially for the Oat Bar. Healthy goodies, juices, coffee, and great service and atmosphere. One of the highest rated restaurants or bistros in the whole city, and that's no coincidence. You can check them out on TripAdvisor, on Google, Facebook, and anywhere. Check them out, the Oat Bar Prague. And then it's Alfred Jobs, alfred.cz, where you find jobs in 3 languages. The page or the app is in 3 languages. That's English, Czech, and Slovak. And probably by now in Russian as well. Alfred is great. You can set up a job board, so you get alerted whenever there is a job that is interesting for you. You're anonymous, so nobody knows that you're there. So you can actually, kind of check if the grass is greener on the other side while you still have a job. And you can apply with one click if you filled in your profile. Free to use, anonymous, doesn't take a lot of space on your phone, or you can use it on the web. alfred.cz. Check it out.
Okay.
So, welcome, Gabriela Dittrichova. Am I doing your name right?
Yeah, close enough. Hello.
How would you say your second name?
In Czech, I would say Gabriela Dittrichova.
Dittrichova.
But I also have an English version, which is Gabriela Dittrichova.
And Dittrichova, is it like Dietrich, Marlene Dietrich?
Unfortunately, no, but it's close enough, yeah. But that's why I chose the creator's name, Gabrielle Ditt, because it's just easier for everyone.
Yeah, when I found you on LinkedIn, you wrote something, or somebody liked something that you wrote on LinkedIn, and I read it, and I was like, okay, this is an interesting woman. I'm gonna connect with her and see what she's all about, and then I found your page with this Gabi Ditt, right?
Gabriella Dittrichova.
Yeah, and I read it like I thought, oh, she's running an editing service because I read it completely wrong. Anyway, so
thank you.
Yeah, but I know it now. You are a co-founder of something called Vagina Nomics. You're writing a book, or you're almost done with it. You're reading it in now as an audiobook, right?
Yes.
And you're a blogger. You're a coach in a way. I mean, you're coaching people.
No.
Inspiring them, at least, with your writings.
Hopefully so.
And then you're an operations manager at something called Femme Palette.
Correct.
What are you?
I'm all of those things you mentioned. First of all, I like to have multiple tasks, multiple jobs, multiple projects. And one of the biggest ones you mentioned is the something called Vagina Nomics, which is a feminist platform. We produce 2 magazines and also a variety of events and shop, etc. There was like the big starting point of showing me that anything is possible, although it sounds like a terrible cliche, I'm sorry. The other something is Femme Palette, which is my day-to-day job, and that is mentoring, which partially is or is close to the coaching you mentioned. So I'm not a coach or a mentor per se. It's not my title. I don't have like certification for that, but I do love talking to people and hopefully inspiring them and having those interesting conversations. And that's also why I write, because I believe everybody has a voice. And for me, the best medium is through writing, either on the blog, gabrieladitt.com, or through the magazine or through the book. Which is
and Femme Palette, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. I'm just a little bit curious about that because that's a female-oriented support network in a way, right?
Correct, yeah. It's kind of a mentoring platform where the goal is to give women equal chances and opportunities, but rather than focusing too much on equality, I would say that it's more about the confidence and courage for women to speak out for themselves, to find their own path, and not be afraid to ask for it.
And who comes to you? I mean, who was the typical, let's say, protege, or who was or a client, if you want to call?
Okay, all sorts of predominantly women, but not only, who usually need a little push. An extra push. And it's always great to have some kind of a cheerleader who helps you make that step, or, is there for you if you need help. So like an average client would be someone who's either wanting to get promoted or wants to start their own business, or maybe wants to transition from one career to another. And same with the mentors, they come from all different sorts of backgrounds. And then what we do is match them 101. And yeah, that's what I do for a living now. Okay,
that sounds good, and needed for sure. The more women we have, the more fun it is. But I know a little bit about your story, and I was curious. The more I talked to you, and the more I read of your stuff, the more curious I was, because it's not like, I mean, you're born here in the Czech Republic in Brno, and but you've been in the UK, and now you got back here. But yeah, you took some turns in life that were not necessarily what one would expect, thinking where you came from in a way. So if you take me kind of back to the start, you're born, as I said, in Brno. Big family?
I was born and raised in Brno. Very traditional background, very traditional family. One brother and 2 lovely parents of mine who always encouraged me to do anything I wanted, and really made me feel that anything is possible, and that was like the game changer. So then when I came at 16 saying, I want to move to the UK, they were like, yes, of course, just find a way to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, of course. Nobody ever stopped me from doing anything. So like my family is very small and traditional, but it was really important for me in making this change and really like making big steps and changes, because if it wasn't for them, then I wouldn't be where I am today.
But how? Because it's as I told you before we started recording, I mean, I've met a lot of people that left the Czech Republic. Keep in mind, guys that are listening, because I have a lot of audience in the US and Canada, they don't know anything about the Czech Republic. Brno is the second largest city in the Czech Republic. It's in the south of the country. It's a big university city, and given that when you actually eventually want to leave, you're actually not like most of the people that I've met that are leaving a very early post-communist Czech Republic. You are leaving a very prosperous, fastly developing, becoming nicer Czech Republic. But why did you want to leave? what was, why? Yeah, were you running from something or just excited?
I think I was just very excited. I didn't take up English up until I think like I was 12 or 13 years old, and I had to caught up with all my classmates, and I just fell in love with it. And my aunt, who taught me English pronunciation predominantly, just made me fall in love with Britain. And I was like, I have to see this for myself. So yeah, I just wanted to go and see what it's like, and I didn't really think much about the rest. And it wasn't that I was running away from anything. I think I was pretty happy in the Czech Republic. I knew where I was going. I was very comfortable here, and maybe that was the problem, because looking back at my life, and I'm 26 now, I'm often running away from comfortable situations, and I always want to challenge myself.
But aren't you supposed to be comfortable when you're 16? You know what I mean? Isn't that what we want? We just want pizza and chill,
Yeah, isn't that what you want every now and then?
Yeah, not all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you need to get out of the balance or out of the safe space to remind yourself, what is it that is comfortable? And I think it's also constantly changing. So I admire those people who have the same career for like 40 years and have one partner and the same set of friends throughout their life and are happy in it, because I couldn't be happy in it, and trust me, I tried, I can't change it. So it's awesome if it works for them. For me, this doesn't work. I just think there are so many opportunities out there that I want to don't miss out on some of them. And that's why I'm constantly looking for changes and, going from studying business to producing magazine to creating a book to working with people who want to get mentors. It's just always changing, and that really, really kind of draws me. So yeah, I just love changes, and I don't think much about them. I just do it and then deal with the consequences.
But were you a good student back in Brno? You mean, were you doing sports? I mean, who is little Gabi?
Little Gabi, and it's also shown in the book a bit, was very successful. I think a bit of an overachiever. I was doing dancing and playing the flute, and then doing English, and having all different sorts of hobbies and friends, and excelling at school. So everything was perfect. And I think I wanted to get away from this perfection that I was kind of dictated what to do, and always...
By what?
By probably my family for most, but also my ego and my pride, because I always wanted to be the best at whatever it was I was doing. I never wanted to stop doing anything, because that would be a failure in my eyes. But because there was so much pressure put on me, either from people around me or myself, I wanted to get away from it as well. And but again, it was something like I wanted to do, and I wanted to be the best at. When the stipendium, the scholarship I got at that time, there were 3 people from the entire country who got it, and I had to have it. So it was always striving to be the best. And only
where does that drive come from? I mean, now you have an older brother, right? Was that some competitive thingy?
No, absolutely not. No, my brother is not competitive at all. Thanks God, we're very, very different. It comes from my the women in our family. So my grandmother, my great grandmother, they were all very, I guess you could say, feminist nowadays. Very strong, independent women. Who are just very like goal oriented, and I didn't realize it back then that I never let go. I just hold on to something until it's completed, and I'm trying to change it now. But back then I was just eager to succeed.
And so you probably felt like you had mastered everything you could do in Brno, and then I need a bigger playing field, right? In a way.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, because it just wasn't challenging enough again.
I can, believe it or not, people. This man here on the other end of the microphone was competitive as well. So I know what you mean. It can be when you kind of feel that there is nothing in your environment that challenges you anymore, or you're good at whatever it is that you actually enjoy. Then it's very often a sign that you should go and do something different, that, or find something else that stimulates you.
Do you think it's a sign?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like when because if you. It's like playing a video game or a game of chess or something. If you always win, you need to find a new opponent. You need something else, because otherwise it just doesn't stay interesting somehow, And so I think it's. No, I'm not sure all people realize this, and maybe not all people are motivated by this, but a lot of those people that you mentioned that do 40 years in the same job and the same partner and so on, I think. In some way, they're either just motivated by something completely different, or they're just not reading the signs, and they're actually not necessarily happy because they're not necessarily stimulated. But yeah, but actually, you cover that in your book, and we're going to come to that later. You kind of have you have that in some way as a theme. I've been able to sneak into some of it. But so the UK, you go there at 17. Is that even legal?
It is legal. It's not recommended.
On your own, right?
Yeah. Wow. I can't remember now, but I was definitely alone. I remember the first time when I arrived to the school, and it was late in the evening.
Which city is this? Where in the UK is this?
It's in the middle of nowhere. It's West Sussex, and I went to a college called Seaford. I can't remember the little village that was nearby, but basically you had to obviously fly to London and then took a train to this tiny little village, and from there you were supposed to get a cab, but because it was so small, late at night there were no cabs. And bear in mind I couldn't speak the language back then, and I was just stuck there with my huge suitcase ready to conquer the world, and I couldn't even transfer myself from the train station to the college. So that just really stick to my mind. Like
a reality check.
Yeah, that because you have literally no one to call to help you. You're in another country and nobody's going to come and take care of it for you. You have to figure it out yourself. So that was challenging, very challenging. But you just find ways out of it. Sorry, I don't know if I'm answering the question.
No. I'm just thinking, 17. I mean, you hear about someone leaving at 20 or 21. I mean, but you're 17, you go on your own. And as you say, I mean, you realize when you come there that you don't really speak the language. I mean, you spoke some English, but not the way that they speak it there, right?
So basically, you asked if it was legal. I'm sure it's legal because there's the agency doing it, but you don't get a guardian.
There's no foster family or anything on the other end.
No. Yeah, you have the school and you are responsible for getting yourself physically there. And then they take care of you. But, just this physical transfer from Brno to Seaford College was a big one. But it did work out eventually. So yes, you are legally allowed to leave at 17, but bear in mind it was supposed to be just for a year. So I was given the scholarship for 1 year and then was supposed to go back, but I was offered an extension. And I still haven't conquered all the challenges that were there after 1 year. So I wanted to stay a little longer. It extended to 7 years. But it was just getting more and more exciting every year, I would say.
But talking about the language, you mentioned it that, and I heard you talk about it elsewhere, that you realized when you came that you didn't really speak English. And there were some examples of this where...
Yes, there were. Thanks for making me talk about this. So basically, I don't know how it's in other places, but definitely the English courses or teachers I came across back here, they don't teach you the pronunciation. And even though my aunt was teaching me the pronunciation, it was a big shock. And luckily I was in the south of England, which still has really beautiful pronunciation.
Softer than in the north, right?
Yes, yeah very much so. So even though I was being prepared for this kind of pronunciation, I still didn't get it. And I was for the first 2 months, I wasn't able to speak at all and didn't understand what they were saying at all either. And then I found a lovely boyfriend of mine who basically his family took me as like another
theirs,
child. Yeah, I was literally feeling like the daughter. So it was great that every day or every weekend I was confronted with the English culture and the language as well. Yeah, there was this situation when I didn't know that the word "cum" has different meanings. So
that's C-U-M, right? That's that cum that we're talking about.
C-U-M. I had no idea existed. So when I was like cheering, oh my God, I can't wait to come. They were just all like really, they found it extremely funny and I wasn't sure like what I said. So I had to literally Google like multiple meanings of cum, like C-O-M-E. And then I discovered this. And I don't think it was a coincidence. I think it was a sign of the future career that was yet to come.
But how was it, so you get the scholarship for 1 year and then after that, what, are you on your own? I mean, money-wise, or were your parents supporting you, or how did that work?
Well, throughout high school, my parents were financially supporting me because I was living on a campus, and obviously I didn't have a car, so I couldn't travel anywhere to work. But I was doing some part-time jobs at college, but that was just like some extra money for the weekend. But then once I finished high school and I completed my A-levels, I moved to London, or on the outskirts of London, and I started working for myself, and I made a promise to myself that from then on I wouldn't ask my parents for any money and would...
This is at 18 or...
Yes, 18, 19. So I started working and just wanted to financially support myself from then onwards.
And why was that? Why wouldn't it have been easier just to get money from home?
It would. Of course it would. But yeah, again, I probably needed to prove myself something that I can make it on my own. Again, same with like moving abroad when you're not even an adult yet. I thought that I would be able to sustain myself financially in London, and that was a very naive thought. But unless I tried it, I wouldn't believe it.
You took a lot of different jobs. What was it exactly that you were studying at this time? I mean, so we actually didn't say that. So what was the school about?
So for A-levels, I thought I took the easy way. So I did maths, economics, German.
Doesn't sound very easy.
I thought it would be. I didn't realize that I would have to translate German to English because I understood it in Czech, but I didn't have the words in English. So that was a funny one. But then I actually went on studying in German at university. So it did teach me something. And then I did English literature, which was a suicide because we were like reading Shakespeare or Lord Tennyson in the original format, which even the British kids didn't understand. So that was strange, but we had a great poetry teacher. There was this lovely old man who just, I don't know, made me fall in love with poetry and kind of showed me my way back to journalism or to writing in general, because he like spent long evenings with me. It was a boarding school and he was living there, so I could like have evening consultations with him, and he would just talk or read poetry to us, and that was just beautiful. So I tried doing English literature. Obviously it was too hard, so I dropped that, and then completed A-levels in German, maths, economics, which logically led me to a business school. And it took some figuring out to decide that business is not what I'm into predominantly.
And during this time, you have a lot of different jobs. And one of them, you told me that you know how to iron shirts better than anybody else.
Not better than anybody else, but at a really high quality in under 3 minutes.
Yeah. So you were cleaning houses or?
Yeah, but they call it an au pair. But I'm sure a lot of girls or people, who have been au pairs in the past can recognize themselves in this, because there is some childcare, of course, but there's also a lot of like cleaning and stuff like that. And I was working for a really high position, a politician. And for this politician, he wanted to wear a fresh new cotton shirt every morning and had it ironed properly. And until then, I never ironed. So I had to learn that very quickly. But, I left the job after like a month or so, and then started working in a pub and then in a cafe, because otherwise it wouldn't be enough. But then I had like 16 or 18 hour long day, and I just like collapsed. So it was figuring it all out. And then I was even like working in retail, which was great because the hours weren't that long, but then there were no tips. So suddenly I didn't have all the extra money. And constant juggling.
And this is in London?
Also, this was partly like London Potter's Bar, which is like a village right outside London. And then it was also in Bath when I started university there.
That's a beautiful city.
It is UNESCO, which is lovely, but not for a 20-year-old student.
No? Why not?
Very limited access to party.
Is it boring?
Very. It's where all the old people retire from London. So,
Okay, I've only been there on a business trips, and some business seminars. So I just saw the guided tour of the buildings and the Roman walls and all that stuff. I mean, it looked nice, but I can imagine actually when you say it, I saw a lot of old people, a lot of old houses, a lot of old people. So maybe not a party place.
Nothing wrong with that. And there are actually 2 universities, so there's a lot of students. It's just that the resources are limited, and the city is beautiful, but it's always the same. And I guess that's, again, the problem.
So, and that it's in London, right, that you get into this Vagina Nomics?
Yes. So basically,
were you graduated then, or no? How does this work?
I dropped out of Bath, so I joined to do international management and German. And from day one, it was very clear that they want us to work for like some of the big banks or investment companies, and I just couldn't see myself in there. So I did finish the first year, and I got pretty good marks at the end of it, and just tried to apply to London. But back then I thought, I never wanted to get back to London, and never wanted to study design because that just doesn't pay enough. So I literally just sent off the UCAS and was like, let's see what happens. And I got accepted. So instead of international management, I went to do design management, which sounded fairly similar, but was actually completely different.
And that school was in London then? Yes.
So that was University of the Arts, London.
And that's when you get into the vagina stuff. Tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about what Vagina Nomics is.
Vagina Nomics is a feminist platform de-stigmatizing taboo subjects through art and design. That's like the tagline, but obviously it's very complex. Why it started was that my partner, who it co-founded with me, was very into feminism, which I guess we all are, but she was doing like a lot of research on the topic, and we were also learning how to produce a publication. So together we agreed that it would be great to produce a magazine since we have access to all those resources, but didn't know the topic. So we are looking what is not already out there, travel, lifestyle, cars and all that. It's all been covered. But there's one thing that isn't, or probably more things, but one of the things that isn't covered yet is nudity, sex, menstruation, gender, things like that. And we wanted to find an angle which would be more accessible. So that's why we connected with over 30 artists who work on the 2 magazines with us. And we just like tested it out to see how it would go, and played with it and basically applied everything that we were learning into practice. And then once we had the actual product, we thought it would be a shame to keep it just as product for university students, excuse me. So we started talking to different magazine shops and lifestyle shops in the UK, and they seemed very excited about it and started selling it. So that's how it kind of grew organically and naturally.
And so you say it's de-stigmatizing those topics. I mean, how do you... Well, first of all, why are they stigmatized? Or, you know, what's the stigma? I mean, what is it that you wanted to change with this?
That's a good question. Why is it a stigma?
I mean, the way from your eyes, you know, like what do you? Are there specific topics more of a stigma than others, or?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that. Why is it a stigma? And there's very many aspects like culture, the way we're brought up, educational system, etc. But what we're trying to say is that these topics are natural. For example, menstruation, right? Half the population more or less has experienced it, and yet a lot of people call it some nicknames or wouldn't talk about it at all, find it disgusting or something like that. And it's more about removing the element of shame from it. Same with sex, like some people don't orgasm during sex. Okay, if it's their choice, that's fine. But if it's not their choice and they're just not communicating their needs because they feel ashamed and afraid to say to, let's say, their sexual partner, that is not good enough. That shouldn't be that way. But, you know, as with Femme Palette, for example, people are more powerful if there's the community and the support network to help them. So that's what we try to create through Vagina Nomics, the support network to show people that, okay, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But if you do want to talk about it, that's also fine. And we're here to support you and maybe give you some tools or guidance on how to approach it.
But like now, if I mean, I'm significantly older than you, and if I look at how freely we express things today versus when I was younger, then I would not somehow assume that young women or young men or young people today actually feel that there is a stigma, or you know that they can't communicate. Am I wrong in that? I mean, do you feel this as a young woman?
I think it depends on your bubble where you're in. Actually, I think I experienced it in all the different situations I've been in. So it is still a stigma. Somewhere more than elsewhere. We did obviously a little research, for example, on the number of orgasms with sex, and multiple researches have been done as well. And it shows that oftentimes it's women, but not always, obviously, that are ashamed to say it and to talk about sex. But it's understandable because, you know, we're brought up in a way where a big part of our sex education comes from porn. And what is that showing us? So it still is a stigma. And here, obviously, a lot more. I am perceived as this like aggressive feminist, which I never thought I was. When I talk about it, when I say it's not okay if you can't talk about sex, pleasure, or anything else with your partner or the other party who's involved. So yes, for me and throughout the communities I came across, it was always some kind of fear or shame to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting because in some way, you know, we have much more access to information. We have much more connectors between like-minded people or people that are thinking the same. I mean, you have much more, I don't know, like web pages, forums, groups, organizations, and I mean, yeah, even associations of different things. So it's because, you know, we didn't even get sex education from porn because, you know, porn was just printed somewhere in the top shelf in the bookstore, you know, and So it's really interesting that despite all these mediums being available, it still seems to be stigmatized and or to be a stigma around it. But I'm curious what you just said, that people see you as some sort of extreme feminist. Nothing that I've seen from you would make me put you into that kind of category. I wouldn't actually put you in a category, but definitely not that one. But is that message that you have, like, about, female orgasm, menstruation, gender, trans, and all these different topics, it works differently here, right? In the Czech Republic versus in the UK. We're in a different place here, right?
Yeah, very much so. But also the fact that I was starting this in London gave us a huge benefit, because London is very diverse and very vivid, and we attracted all sorts of people, which was great because we actually, at least I think, did manage to cover like a spectrum, and that is some part of the message, that we are all spectrum. It's nice that you were talking about the boxes, because I don't believe in any kind of brackets or boxes or titles, but it's easier that way, and that's why everyone probably tends to do it. And this was to show that we are a spectrum. Everybody is a spectrum. And that is amazing. And just like by knowing your spectrum and showing the spectrum, we can actually like bring light to everybody's lives. But to answer your question, in London, we managed to create this beautiful community of very different people who weren't afraid to show it. Quite the contrary. They were looking into what makes them unique, and then they were expressing themselves. Whereas here, we're a couple of steps back, which is fine. It just makes me a bit upset that there's a lot of anger or maybe jokes and making fun around this topic. And as you were talking about the access, for example, to information, yes, we do have access to a lot of information, but it's very hard to tell what is quality information and what is just false information, or what is false. So same here. We can access, or we might have some understanding of the fact that there is not just men and women, that there is some LGBTQ plus community existing. But because we don't have the relevant access to quality information, or maybe some people might not be so interested in it, and it's easier just to make fun of it rather than dig deeper into what are the connections and the background behind somebody, for example, being non-binary. Rather than doing the research and doing the hard work, they just turn it into a joke.
The easy way is the joke part. Whereas, as you're
and
saying,
I think these jokes can be very, very damaging. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Puritan, I hope, but it's just being more aware, empathetic, and understanding of other people's characteristics or nature that would really help us move forward faster.
But so you feel, if I try to understand, like, or summarize, there is more pushback here than it would be in London. Whereas in London or in England, when you come out with some content like Vagina Nomics, you don't get pushback, you don't get hate.
You do.
Yeah?
You still do. Yeah, it's just that the community is larger, and again, support. You're looking for support. So in London, you will have a lot of people supporting you, helping you, but there's hate speech all around the world. I was surprised that, for example, in Bath, that we spoke about, which is a very, very conservative city, they did stock our magazine as well, and it did sell really well. So people are curious, but it's great when people do want to learn and understand it a bit more. But there will always be the haters. Anyway, you are.
But here it's different because we have still here, unfortunately, just some basic things like on gender equality between men and women is, we are far behind. I mean, we have a bigger pay gap than a lot of other countries. We do. I often get the feeling that men here. I'm gonna lose some. That men here, they view their women as some sort of an attachment or a decoration or a property, and it's more often than not to cover up for some sort of an inner insecurity about who they are in reality, and due to this, I can imagine that the female orgasm is not necessarily high on their priority list.
Sadly, not yet, but they don't know what they're missing out on.
No. But it's just. I'm curious about like, what do you feel like? Are we 5 years behind here, 10 years, or are we moving in the right direction? I mean, what's kind of the state of the union here?
I'm in no position to judge that.
But you're the hardcore feminist of this country. You should know these things.
Don't put me in a bracket. No, but yes, women are oftentimes perceived as accessory, which is lovely if it's an independent choice of the woman. But there should also be the space to say, no, I want to have it differently, and that is fine too. There are tiny little steps towards, let's say, greater equality, whatever that might mean to each one of us. But with the change of the ID, you don't have to put your status, marital status there. There are tiny steps, and it's going to take a long time. The name
also now, you can avoid the suffix in the end of the name.
Yeah, which obviously causes or stirs the conversation, which in my opinion is great. But a lot of people fear the change, which is also understandable. And for example, the language, it's not ready for it in any culture. Non-binary people, they, them pronouns. It's great that there are some pronouns, but they can also be associated with something else. So the change is extremely complex, and it takes a load of, I don't even want to say people, like communities or organizations or whatever it might be, to execute this change. And yeah, we might be slightly behind, but that's just because we have less people fighting for that change and seeing it as important. So, I don't think it's fair to compare different countries because there are different perceptions and different approaches. It's just about trying to be more understanding, I would say.
But when you say this, for example, about the pronouns and how then the language, let's take the language that as an example, how that doesn't really capture or or include what is needed to be able to treat this in the same way as a he or a she or a man or a woman. And I mean, the counter argument to this could be that, okay, we're saying that we are gonna collapse or redesign a system for a major minority. I don't know even if a major minority is a word, but a very small minority, let's say, of people. And I mean that do you know what I mean? I mean, which is it's also an argument. It's also like, okay, so because I mean we do live in a democracy, we do live in a homogeneous society that where the majority of the people lives in the same way and have chosen this and blah blah blah, and for whatever reason that is, that then it keeps rolling like that, And I don't know. I mean, it's tricky because this kind of these kind of matters are actually, I think it's really, really hard to explain this to people. Do you know what I mean? That as you were saying earlier, they don't even maybe necessarily want to even go and read about it or educate themselves about it. So it's doomed to be difficult.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I'm no expert on gender or sexuality. The whole mission was to provide a tool to approach these topics.
Yeah.
And actually, in terms of, for example, non-binary, the co-founder of Vagina Nomics, Cecilia, would have more to say about it, so I'd rather not go into it. But it's not about proactively seeking the change more than showing understanding and making people who are brave enough and courageous enough to seek the change, make them feel appreciated. Or not even maybe appreciated, just leave them alone.
Yeah.
So, it's this never-ending conversation. But I don't want to like judge it or put opinions on it. It's more about being encourageous and just making sure, because no change ever happens without consequences, right? And it's going to hurt, and people are going to get impacted in some ways, which is hard. And I know change is hard and it can have very damaging effects, but it is, in my opinion, or from my personal experience, necessary. Because as we were talking earlier, from a comfortable state, you will never move forward.
Just maybe a little bit on this also. So you picked, there are different topics that you would talk about here than in the UK, right?
Yes.
What can you mention me a topic that you would not talk about here, but you can talk about there as an example? In Vagina Nomics in general.
So, for example, in the second issue, we cover male pole dancing. And it's a really interesting story. Or we have the story of a drag queen. And it's just playing with this idea of like stereotypes and typical roles of men and women and anyone within the society, what labels we put on people and how we should actually reconsider that. But back in the Czech Republic, when we came with the concept of Vagina Nomics to some magazine stores, they were actually pretty impressed, but turned us down regardless, because those topics are very foreign to them. They're not spoken of yet. And that's why we're thinking now that we're also planning to release a Vagina Nomics book, that we would talk more about maternity, paternity, role of a mother, father, parent, and a child, because that is something that is more approachable.
And these are very much topics that are on the agenda here as well, right?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've said this in 5 episodes before, but I was very, very surprised when I found out how this, the whole system here is not really female friendly when it comes to business and equality. It's female friendly when it comes to motherhood. But not all moms want to be just a mom. Maybe they want to be also a businesswoman, or also an employee, or also a writer, or whatever. And but I'm very happy to see that in those 12 years that I've been here, that I'm actually seeing discussion now publicly, not just in some coffee corners, about these things. And it's a real chance. But I can imagine that what you're saying, that some of the topics that you could talk about in the UK are maybe, we're not there, there are other things on the agenda, let's say.
Exactly, yeah.
The Czech president, this is kind of out of the blue here, but he said just a few days ago that trans people disgust him, and he said that he could sympathize with gay and lesbian, and that he could understand that, and blah blah blah, and that he finds trans people disgusting, and or he said they disgust me, which is maybe a different side of the same coin, but and then he goes into saying that they're medically or surgically enhancing or taking a risk and health and blah blah blah, and of course this has caused a big uproar, and at first I was like, oh, what an asshole this guy is, and then I started thinking, well, it's still his opinion, he's still entitled to have this opinion, but he's the president at the same time. Do you have anything on this? Have you heard about this? Did you follow this, or does this exemplify what is kind of going on here in this country? Do you feel that this is like? Are there more people that are going to agree with him than disagree? You're not running for politics. You can say whatever.
Okay. It's hard to say anything really, because it's just an articulation of an opinion that is not new and that many people are faced with on a daily basis. Not just trans people, just anyone really. Also, as you mentioned, this very traditional role of men in the society and of a woman in a society. I didn't realize it was that much embodied in the Czech culture. But when I was talking to my now partner about children, for me it was automatic that I would not be a stay-at-home mom. But seeing all the new mothers around me, they all took it for granted that they're the ones staying at home with their child, maybe working part-time, but that's it. And it's fine if it's their voluntary choice and if this suits them. But again, having the choice to do whatever feels right for you, and engaging the men in this as well, because oftentimes here we see that we're trying to put women into males' shoes and typically male positions, let's say it in the corporate world, but we don't look at it as often the other way around and supporting men in fulfilling the so-called typically female roles. And you know, now the conversation's stirring a lot, but still it's only in the boardroom for now, and it needs to be taken out there. So sorry for not answering your question, but I just think that this is just one example that obviously the media picked up on that can happen to anyone, any day. And it's fine. We all make mistakes.
And you didn't really maybe expect anything else from this guy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely not.
I mean, it shouldn't really necessarily come as a surprise in a way.
Yeah, but again, people have to be really emotionally strong not to let that negative messages get to them, because there will always be negative messages. And it's about listening to the people who you really care about. And if they love you, they would never intend to harm you.
Yeah. And I mean, I even thought about, like, what if he would have said, no, I fucking love trans people, they're my favorite thing, you know.
I'd prefer that to happen.
Yeah, but I think we would all have thought that he was lying, you know what I mean? I don't think anybody would have believed it, you know. So it's maybe like, you know, shit is always gonna smell. So we shouldn't be surprised about this from this guy. But it was just an interesting thing, you know, like. And I just followed it a little bit online. It caused a very big kind of uproar.
But I think it's a good thing looking back at it, because there's no such a thing as bad advertising.
No, it causes a discussion.
Exactly, and the people who follow him might never heard about this concept before, and it makes them, hopefully, some of them, go and dig deeper and find out more. Yes, of crappy information, but at least they learned something new, and I think that's a step forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the key word here is to find tolerance, because, you know, it shouldn't matter to me what somebody else is doing. If it's not hurting me, then why would I even care, you know?
That is the end goal. Just focus on yourself and invest less energy in focusing on others. Exactly.
You have some. It was interesting when you told me that we, with Vagina, I'm one of the Vagina Nomics people, that you had a problem with the name, social media profiles and stuff like that. So what was this?
So basically our name turned down on almost all platforms. Instagram was the only one which accepted the name Vagina Nomics. But then all other social media channels and also the British government turned down the name Vagina Nomics. We never got much of a feedback on it, and obviously we tried like proving that vagina is a body part, it's not a swear word, it's nothing bad. didn't work out. So most of the platforms we registered at Nomics, and then it really like harms the brand because there's no consistency across the channels. And it's an ongoing fight also, for example, with Facebook, which took most of our products down on our e-shop, even if they weren't showing anything like rude.
So this is the open-minded, tolerant Facebook we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
that supports Black Lives Matters and whatever.
Yeah, of course. And hashtag Pride Month in rainbow and all that. So,
but you can't say vagina on Facebook.
No, you can't. And also,
okay,
like,
so I'm going to publish this episode on Facebook. Vagina.
It's probably going to get taken down, so I apologize
in
advance.
Yeah. So and
awful.
And no answers. Nobody can tell you why. Nobody can justify this decision or argue for it or give you any.
No, it just always gets declined. Yeah.
And there was some picture you had. There was some picture you shared with Donald Trump, right?
We did. That got taken down as well. And there was no nudity or no even the word sex or nothing. But, you know, if you can ever get hold of actually a physical person at Facebook, please let me know. And it's just like endless email threads with some robots. I don't even know. It took a long time to get over it. I think we've slightly given up on it for now, just because there are other ways how to fight it. But definitely the system is not ready for it yet.
No, it's really, really interesting. I've had some dialogue with some of those platforms about some of my stuff, and you could just as well send an email to god@god.com and you will not get an answer, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a bit scary because your business, you need this for what you're doing, and you're actually spreading a positive, non-violent message. And I mean, fuck it, they can just market then not for 18 and younger or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But it's strange. So alongside all this, you've done a lot of self-discovery. I mean, obviously, as we go, we learn. But you did some sexual self-discovery, which I read about in a blog post, and I'm very, very curious about sharing with our audience. Take me through that a little.
Read my blog post for more details.
Yeah. So to give us at least the gist of it, you know.
I think it was born out of frustration, because some of the most exciting conversations that at least I have with my friends happen around sex, and we don't talk about it throughout social media, or at least again in my bubble. But I did feel the urge to put it out there again, just to show that it is an option. And I did highlight that, you know, it is not talking about any of my like previous sexual partners in general. That is literally my own reflection, because one has to be really cautious about what we're letting out there, because it might hurt somebody else. And I had my current partner look over it to say it's okay for me to publish it, because it is under my name. But obviously, since he's my current partner now, people might associate it with him. He was fine with it, so it was good to go. And it was just a lot of self-exploratory. Originally, when we funded Vagina Nomics, I wrote an article about masturbation. Again, something that is not often, or for me, not enough spoken of. And now the same with pleasure, sexual pleasure, discovering your own body. And it's basically like connecting with yourself. And I don't know if you have the same experience, but for me, if I'm not feeling good, if I'm not in a good place, I won't enjoy like sex as much either. So I knew that I had to build a lot of trust, but first learn to understand and listen to my body, and literally like release all the tension from it. And there are different tools, like I talk about the sex toys there, sex with women, men, different experiences, different sensations, really, which is great, because, you know, I think that's how you learn the most about yourself. And then I just felt the urge to put it out there to make sure that people are also going through their own discovery journeys, because I think it's a shame if they're stuck in a place where it feels okay and they might think that it could be better, but don't do anything for it and just happen. It will magically happen. So it was I don't know. I was very, very afraid to let it out there and just, put it into the world. But actually, it got so many hits that I definitely don't regret it. And there was no hate speech, which is a miracle. And
I can fix that. I'll go on and do a little hate for you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But I'm curious about this. So you because you tried a lot of different sex toys, and you kind of in discovering your own body and sensations, you had different sex partners, and I mean you write about all this, but why? What drove you there? Just curiosity, or you felt that I can improve this, or this is something that I should know more about, or?
Well, the end goal of Vagina Nomics was to get all those sex toys for free and just test them out, right? So hasn't happened yet, but hopefully one day. It's just, I don't know, walk the walk, talk the talk. A lot of the topics we were covering in Vagina Nomics, and now I also touch upon on the blog, were things that are stigma and taboo for myself. So, I'm not going to tell you that, I've always had the best orgasms or the greatest sex, or I know how to have a perfect relationship, because no, I have none of that. So I can understand people who feel the same way, because I felt that way, or sometimes I still do. And I was very resistant, for example, to sex toys. I was like, no, I don't need that. And then I slowly started trying and allowed myself to have that kind of experiences that just like multiplied anything I had before. And it was great, but I would never had it if I didn't have the support from, again, the network. Then my partner was like, let's just give it a go. And first time I tried it, I had no idea how to use it. And I thought it was so frustrating that I just wanted to throw it away. But then I started learning, because again, it was exciting and challenging. And how can you use it? And now, sex toys is not just for the one person. You can use it in a couple or with more people. And it's just like giving you the option to spice things up and try different things. And I mean, who would say no to that? I mean,
a lot of people do. I mean, but it's not just with sex toys, but just in general to know what they want and to know what they like and to want more, or to try new or something. I mean, it's definitely one of those stigma things. I have a feeling, and when we mentioned before that the women being let's say an attachment or a decoration on the man, it's often you don't get the feeling that that in that case her sexual pleasure or her needs are necessarily high up on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that is true.
But why? So you consciously go on a journey. I mean, it's not like just somebody goes and buys a vibrator and has fun at home. You. I mean, when I read the blog post, it's almost as you took it as a methodological. I don't know how to say this word. It was like a methodological.
Methodological?
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay.
That was almost like a process. You were almost like you approached it almost like an investigator or a scientist in a way.
But I like to look at things from a different perspective. And that's why I like to talk to different people as well, because they make me see things through another pair of eyes, which is great. And again, as we talked about the space of comfort, it's nice for some time. But, it's also nice to try different things and explore and discover. And again, if people are happy in the same format throughout their life, then great, good for them. I'm not. And I want to inspire and encourage others who might feel that there's still some unknown that might be exciting or fun. Just do it. What have you got to lose? Come on.
Go after it.
Yeah, exactly. And also with your partner, like this woman being an accessory to men is just bullshit, makes me sick, but whatever. And it's actually more enjoyable for everyone involved. If you have fun and you enjoy whatever you're doing, it's not just sex, like in life in general, right? If you're passionate about what you're doing and can enjoy it fully, then you just like reflect it to others and everyone is having more fun. And I don't know, shouldn't that be the point?
But if you go out with a post like this here in the Czech Republic and you basically kind of put your own sexual journey or this part of your sexual journey, let's say, you put it out there, and is there a pushback? There was no hate on this post.
Yet,
but
until you go and write it.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, could you come on television and talk about this?
I think what helped was that it was in English. So it doesn't get to those audiences that would be extremely shocked with it. Yeah. Or maybe it is reduced. I think I would go and talk about it on television now because, again, people who know me and love me know that I love to talk about sex toys, pleasure. So they wouldn't judge me. Maybe my family would feel uncomfortable, and I'm sorry about that, but they know I'm a weirdo. But no, like, people have to talk about it, or somebody has to talk about it, and if it's going to be me, then okay, why not?
But did it? So if you look at where you started, that kind of self-discovery, I guess, is it doesn't have an end. It's an ongoing process, especially in people like you that don't like status quo. You want something. But do you feel that you ended up somewhere else than you were, or did you go? Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. Like, I never thought I would be talking about sex in public and a lot about the female body, for example. I had no idea. I thought that Vagina Nomics, started in London and will stay in London. But it wasn't like with
you took the vagina with you.
I did. I take it everywhere, But especially back here when I was talking to different shops and they said, no, we're never going to sell it. I was like, okay, well, that is the end of Vagina Nomics for me, at least for now. And then I started meeting different entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs. There's a lovely community in the Czech Republic. And all of them have associated me with the magazine. And there was like the light bulb moment, like, wow, okay, it's not that. I'm actually a co-founder of a magazine, an editor-in-chief of a magazine that is actually selling around the world. You can't just like let it go. It's a part of you. And it's just like a good starting point that people do want to have these conversations. And then they see me say the word sex or orgasm out loud and not making like, oh, what did I just do? But just making you feel natural. And that's the kind of power I now hold. And if I do have that, then okay, I'll be happy to spread it. I never thought this would be the channel, but let it be.
But so doing this simultaneously, the Vagina Nomics and kind of, some sort of a self-discovery gave you it kind of removed the taboos. You're fine being Gabi that talks about sex in a way, which you probably wouldn't have been maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's how Vagina Nomics basically saved me. And now my girlfriends, for example, come to me and say, we have this problem in the bedroom, as they like to call it, and things like that. And I have to tell them that I'm not a therapist. I'm not a sex expert. I just showing that it's okay to talk about it.
Exactly. But that already puts you on a pedestal in a way, because it's such a rare thing to talk about.
It's actually not that rare.
No, but publicly, you know what I mean? It's not a lot of people that go out there publicly. But so basically you leave London, you get back here. Like if we go a little bit back to the timeline. Why?
Well, I guess I was overwhelmed with London. It is very hectic, very full on. And I felt like one phase of my life was about to end. So I was actually supposed to move to Berlin with my previous job. And as I was taking a break in the Czech Republic, repacking the suitcases, I thought, maybe I'll stay over Christmas, spend Christmas with my family. That should be lovely. And then I already spent 2 months in the Czech Republic working remotely still for the startup, but also started looking around for other projects that might be exciting. And I joined one nonprofit whose founder is actually incredible role model of mine. And she took me under her wings and just like showed me the Czech startup scene, and
which is booming.
Me. Yeah, it is booming. And I mean,
since you left, it started while you were away. It started, and you came at the right time.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. No, it's nice how small and familiar it feels. So then, I left that job. So there was no move to Berlin. And then I fell in love and had no reason to leave and couldn't leave really with the pandemic. So I thought, let's try to do something here. But I needed a project. I couldn't just be employed. I have to work on something that is mine. Yeah,
we have a little phone call here. Let's just can put that on silent.
Very sorry.
No,
it's time to go to Brno soon.
Yeah, it's just a reminder.
I'm calling. So that's how I was supposed to move to Berlin, but actually got stuck here. And then I wanted to go to Bali and do yoga. And instead I started writing and thought, how about I try to publish a book? So big changes there.
Yeah, and I've listened to parts of your book, and then I read a teaser chapter, I think, that you put on your blog, right?
Yes, thank you.
And I've been a good boy, and I'm curious about the book. It's called Revolution.
The Revolution of Love.
But actually, the R is in brackets, so it's the evolution of love.
Correct. Yes.
What is it about?
It's about love and its different forms. It talks predominantly about relationships, not just typical relationship of two partners having either sexual or romantic relationship, but it also talks about friendship, and then the key relationship there is the one with the self. Yourself. So it's 3 short stories, all describing different types of the different type of the relationship. Some of them end pretty bad because I just love drama, I guess. But it's just quite short and punchy, and then it gives a lot of space for the reader to actually get engaged with the book, to interact with the book, because the key message here is not read a story whilst you're on a holiday and then put it away, but actually do get involved with the book, and hopefully it'll get you thinking as the reader. I like to say that the reader is co-creating the story, that I just give some kind of rough guidelines, some inspiration. If you want to just relax with the book, then that's fine. But I like to make people think when I'm having conversations with them or in any other situation. So this book is to highlight that, think about your relationships. How happy are you in those relationships? If you are unhappy or you want to change something, what is holding you back? Try to capture the state of your relationships over the next couple of days, let's say. What is happiness for you? When I say you're happy in this relationship, what does it mean to you today? What does it mean to you in a week, in a month? Things like that. So yes, it is love, because for me, like, love has always been there. It doesn't matter if you love your job or love your family. Hopefully you do love everything you do. And it's also a tool, again, that is more approachable to the end customer, because a lot of people seem to care about whether you're in a relationship or, how is it working or how is it not working out, why you're not in a relationship. That is typically for this market, Czechoslovakian market. And that's why I approached it, because, okay, you don't want to see or have vaginas in your face, but that doesn't mean that you should stop thinking about your life.
Who doesn't want to have a vagina in his face? Who could say no to that?
I don't know. I'll let you know when I meet someone.
Yeah. But So in some sense, I think you said it. The book is in a way interactive. It's not interactive in the meaning of that you can press buttons and then something happens or something, but it's more that it's a storyline, but it also gives you food for thought. You like, or food for thought. Sorry, no food. Food for thought that you're supposed to. Okay, so when I was listening to the part that you sent me, I was like, okay, so. If I picture myself in this, how do I reflect on those things that are being talked about here? And you kind of pause the story and say, but one part you said maybe write down what makes you feel good, why how you're feeling right now. So that it's kind of a story / homework.
Yes, yeah. So basically, you can pick the parts that you want, and it is interactive in a way that. Print on paper can also be interactive. Yeah, you don't press any buttons, but you can rip it apart. You can pull those pages out. You can scribble all over them. You can paint in it. There are, ways to paint. There are flowers and everything. So just do whatever you want to it, but please do something with the book.
And you said now just that one. Yeah, you mentioned this about the choice of not being in a relationship.
Yes.
Which is another thing about this society here, that it seems to be like a very narrow path that you should follow, or if you're not, then you're kind of straying from the herd. Like you're not following the way that everybody else did before you, and I often get the feeling that especially with women, if they are like at the tender age of 30 and they don't have a kid or a husband, then they're kind of yesterday's news,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's basically the same message, right? Just be yourself and don't be ashamed for it. And hopefully encouraging others to understand, try not to judge. But that is a very difficult concept. But it doesn't matter if you're black or white or in a relationship or not. It's everybody's choice. But a lot of self-help books are telling you like you just have to be emotionally strong and find ways to discover yourself, which I'm basically saying too.
Yeah, but you're actually more telling me to be emotionally weak or allowing myself to be emotional.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, or vulnerable, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a big topic because again, it doesn't have to be in your face, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't think about it. So the book is hopefully a safe space where you can write your thoughts or capture your memories, whatever it might be, and nobody has to see it. But it is a way for you how to capture it and then come back to it. So you do give space and time to yourself.
Yeah, I think the chapter that you... I think the chapter that was on the blog, that's this successful couple that is having everything that we, from the IKEA catalog, everything that we're supposed to have,
Yeah.
But they're actually not happy. And it's I think often people don't want to see this, they don't want to hear this, they don't want to, because it's challenging to change, Well, not for everybody. You do it easily, but people often are afraid of changes and so on. And I would be very curious to hear how, but I don't know if you'd be a bestseller around the world, then you might not have time to take calls from someone like me. But I'll be very curious to hear about how the book will be received in a way here.
I promise to give you a call once it's live, which should be in early September. So expect a call then.
Yeah, so you're gonna make it as a print version or ebook print version or and then audio.
All of it. Yeah, it's going to be a print book, then an ebook as well, and then also the audio, which part of you've heard already, because I like to play with different mediums. And the book is just a starting point of the conversation, and hopefully going to take me much further again into some more interaction with people. Yeah,
some different dimension maybe on your page or something.
Exactly, or even events, virtual or hopefully offline. And the message is still the same, just like be yourself and don't let anyone dictate you what you should be or what you should do.
So I was just yeah, I mean, you're young, but you have lived, and you're making a book, you publishing a magazine, you lived abroad. What is it that kind of, but in some way the kind of commonality in all of this that I see that you do is that you wanna inspire people and help them or share with them something that can make them help themselves somehow. Is that
Yes.
right? Is that...
Ideally, yeah. I kind of gave up on this concept of trying to help others proactively, which sounds awful. But basically what I mean by that is that you got to focus on yourself. Because only if you're in a good state, you can spread it. So exactly as you mentioned, hopefully it is inspirational for some, but it's more like me living the way I find fulfilling and meaningful. And if somebody, reads my story or hears my story or just resonate with some of the thoughts I share, then it's great because, there's already 2 of us there, and that is a little group, a support community. So maybe it will give them courage to do something a little controversial.
But you are in some way by kind of taking yourself into the spotlight or sharing, you're doing it for others, right? Or are you doing it just for yourself?
Yeah, to make me feel good, I don't know if I intended to do this. I didn't want to put myself in the spotlight, and even with the book, I never actually wanted to put my face on it, but the statistics are cruel, and actually posts with your face on perform much better. And then I was like, I want to get the message to as many people as possible. So I just have to follow some of those rules. Otherwise, I can just keep my own diary and never have to bother with all the hassle of self-publishing a book. So there is a bit of controversy around that. And also, just doing this interview is like, yeah, who wants to listen to you, girl? But you've got to try. And I listen to a lot of people, even nowadays, who inspire me in some way. I might never get to know them, but I don't perceive them as like selfish or self-centered. I just perceive them as a huge source of inspiration and encouragement. And if I could be that to someone, then it's great. And if not, we're all given some kind of body and face and thoughts, and we can share it, but we don't have to. And to be honest, nobody's got to listen to it.
No, that's a free choice to make. I totally agree with that.
Exactly.
Maybe one last thing. If you would have never left to the UK, if there would have been a more challenging environment for you back in Brno, would things have turned out differently?
Oh, yes, I would be married by now, have a lovely husband and probably 1 or 2 children, maybe on the way, a mortgage and a regular job.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound too bad, actually.
No.
But I just chose a different way. And to be honest, I couldn't be happier in this space and point in time. I think that the move made a big difference. The people I came across and still keep coming across today make a huge difference. And that makes it even more important to getting to know yourself properly and knowing who you are and staying true and authentic, for the lack of a better word. Because only if you know yourself and learn to love yourself can you inspire others.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you left, because otherwise I wouldn't have found you. I would never have found you as a married mother of 2 in Brno, having a regular job. I don't think you would have written a blog post about masturbation with sex toys. So
glad I found you as well, and that you moved.
So if people want to know more about you, give me where can they follow you? So there's the page. There is the blog, gabrieladitt.com. That is GABRIELA
LLEDITT.
Yeah,
Long
.com.
version.
And I'll put links of all this in the episode description on whatever medium you're listening to. There will be links to Gabi's page.
Awesome.
Social media?
Social media, yeah, all the same. Gabriela Dittrichova, Facebook, Instagram. You mentioned LinkedIn. There's my real name, actually, Gabriela Dittrichova.
Yeah. And Vagina Nomics.
Vagina-nomics.com. That does exist magically.
Okay. And book is coming out, you think, September or early?
Yeah, The Revolution of Love will be out in September, the English version, and then the Czechoslovakian version is out next year.
Okay, and if people want to know, see the book, then it's on your page. That's where it will be found.
Yes.
I don't know when I'll be airing this episode. We're recording this here in a sauna in July, but hopefully just before or around when you publish the book. Guys, you can follow my show on Facebook. It's called The Bunker. How the hell did we end up here? That's the Facebook page. Instagram, Bunker Prague, or The Bunker Prague, I don't remember. And I think that's kind of everything. We kind of covered this. The storyline here was a 17-year-old stubborn girl decides to chase her dreams, and then she realizes that she can't sustain herself. Then she publishes a magazine, and then she talks about love, and in the meantime discovers her sex journey. And all of this in just, 8 years?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
we were not here now for 8 years, but you've done a lot in a very short period of time, and I'm sure there is more to come.
There definitely is more to come, but I think, anyone can do anything.
When I retire and move to Bath, then that's in 20 years from now, then I'll record with you again and see where you're at.
Lovely. I can't wait to go and visit Bath again and see you as well. So thank you so much for the invitation and for allowing me to go through this journey and share it with you and your listeners.
Thank you for coming, and have a nice journey back home on the train.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.